Hello. Today is May 21st, 2025. This is SIG Node CI weekly meeting. Welcome, everybody. Checking on agenda, we don't have much happening. So let's jump right into looking at the bugs. Okay, let me share my screen. Yeah. So I want to start with this dashboard just to clean up a little bit and see what's happening. Yeah, let's start with triage column. Typically, we go through the triage column to understand what's new happened and how to where to put it. And I did a little bit of cleanup already, but we can do triage together. So first one is CPU manager failing test and running not guaranteed ports. That should let container access all the online CPUs without a reserved CPU set. Francesca, have you self-assigned or somebody CC'd you?
Yes, there is a PR ready for review which should fix. It's a legit bug. Teams opened also a similar bug. We can close later. I actually didn't know which one we want to close. So anyway, the PR is ready for review. And
Is it test issue?
the problem is that okay, so context. I had the writing parallel, so the old tests are still there. The new test, if they require 3 or more CPUs because reserved, exclusive, anonymous, whatever, they ask, they check if the machines are allocatable enough, and if not, they skip. Some tests don't, because I assumed in my rewrite that the CI machines have at least 4 CPU. Not the case. Some machines run with 2 CPUs. So each and every test should declare their requirement and skip if not provided.
Okay.
This is the fix.
Okay. So yeah, nothing to do here except saying it's in progress.
Yeah,
And
and this is the clone. Yeah, we can close either or keep both. I don't. Anyway.
did you mark both of them as fixed in this PR?
Yeah, that's the intention.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this PR, is it looked by anybody?
So TV said the pass is what the pass I updated and works for me. I need to check if this failure here seems to be unrelated. I will check, but there could be flakes in other cases. But that's the current state. It's ready for review if anyone wants to have another pass.
Any takers? You just need a LGTM.
As what
I
is
can
out
look
of
at it.
office today? Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter.
Lots of scrolling. Okay, scrolling back up. I just want to move it to the proper column. Move it to interview. Okay. Yeah, this is the same PR. Yeah, this is the PR we just looked at. DRA E2E. Reduce risk of flake in resource slice stress test. 5 days ago. And it's already LGTM'd. Ed, you assigned to it? Are you looking?
Yeah, I will look at it.
Okay. Deny pod admission for static pod referencing API objects. I think it's a product change. Yeah, and I moved it to archived column. We use archived column because projects generally suck up all the work like all the issues here by labels, and if you remove it from project, it will put it back again. So we just move it to archived folder and then archive it altogether. Okay, DRA monitor plugin connection. This is product code. Yeah, archived.
That's my old PPR. Yeah, that's code related. Yeah.
This is great. And this is a resource code flag failing test. Flake.
Yeah, Patrick is working on it, so it's hard to reproduce, and it's like in
It's
work.
currently adding more more logs. Okay. So Jira integration setup nodes for scheduling. This is also in progress. I will mark the such. And this is a product change, right? It's not a. Oh, it's mostly tests. Okay, so it's test, but it's work in progress. And moving scheduler interfaces to staging. Split cycle state into interface cycle state and implementation cycle state implement. So I think it would be product change, not rather than test change. Yeah. Okay. Some code optimization. I can only hope it's not done by some AI. Okay, with that, we have 0 bugs at triage. We still have issues to do, and we have issues in progress. And just quickly glancing through. Okay, so this is marked as in progress, but it doesn't have anybody assigned to it, which is not supposed to happen. Oh, because it's a PR. Okay. So yeah, PR should go somewhere else.
Yeah, and this will get a cap. I'm working with Pravec. So we have discussed this in SIG Node, and we are going to have a cap for it together with the static memory. So it's
Right.
under control.
So this is not a CI related. It's
No.
okay. Product change.
But I think it is because the plan is to have the tests. So now, when Francesco's refactoring is finished, then I plan to update the test to use the new approach. So perhaps this is why it is here.
That would be helpful.
Mm.
Need reviewers. I'm just checking if some of them approve. If labels LGCM already, then probably need an approver. It sounds like a good PR.
With a very smart author.
Yes, outstanding. I can self-assign unless Francesco already is there, right? Oh, you just triage it. Okay, self-assign. Okay, I will take a look and then normal GTM PRs. So what we have right now is one PR needs approval, and we have a bunch of PRs for review, like 27. I mean, surprisingly, like test area typically have better turnaround, so maybe need to double down on this. And then in progress 25, we may review it later. I don't know if you have time during this meeting, we might. And then to do is 9. To do is interesting. Like we probably need to see if we can put a priority on all of them. Like long term, this doesn't have priority. Probably need to have it. Long term. Oh, soon. Yeah, this is important soon. Okay. Backlog. Yeah. Let me see participants today, because if you're participating today and you want to pick up an item, one good thing we can do is to go through those to-do issues, and maybe you can find something you'd like to contribute to. So please don't afraid to speak up. It's not doesn't mean that we will be assigned something. You just if you're interested to take a look through the issues to do, we'll go together. Going once, going twice. Okay. Yeah, let's see if we can get better participation next time, maybe from Google side, and we can try to see if we can assign any of to-do issues to somebody. And if you just don't want to speak up today and you're still interested, go through those to-do issues and try to see what's up for your liking.
I'm sorry, is this for running the call? I missed what you were saying earlier.
So this dashboard is tracking all the work that we want to do, and we have issues that needs to be done but not assigned to anybody, and we have issues that currently in progress, meaning that somebody assigned to it, and hopefully this somebody is working on that. And during this meeting, we don't have time to go through all the items every time. So what we're doing is we pick in column either to do or in progress or some other column and go triage that one. So if anybody today interested to pick up new work, I can go through the to-do list. If nobody interested to pick up new work, it will be mostly meaningless to do that. That's why I'm suggesting maybe you can do it offline if you still want to find work to do. Did it answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I am interested, but I guess I can like go through it offline and then like
Okay.
follow up on the channel.
Totally works for me. Okay, then. That's good.
Yeah. Sorry, if you don't mind, there was one particular issue that I wanted to talk about that I just saw that is there in the to-do column. The first one, actually, like the pod lifecycle testing and documentation. I had posted a comment on this issue, I believe. Yeah, I wanted to know if this like I know that there is a container lifecycle like E2E node test file which has a lot of tests, and you had mentioned that in the issue description that we would ideally want to split these tests into different files. I wanted to like ask if that was still a thing that we want to do, and if I can if that would be a good place to start, because I know that some tests in that file are flaking also, for which we have other issues. So I was like meaning to ask if that is a good place to start.
Yeah, I can speak about this a little bit. Maybe other people will be interested as well. So this project was created as part of GSOC. Oh no, not GSOC. It was part of LFX mentorship. So LFX mentorship is a program when Linux Foundation paying interns to try to contribute to open source, like get experience, and hopefully to get them interested in contributing long term. So myself and I think Team Eau Claire run this project, and you can read more about this project here. No, not this one. Yeah, here. Here's a description. So the idea was that pod lifecycle is not very well documented, but it's reasonably well tested. Like as part of Sidecar project, we added a lot of tests for end-to-end for pod end-to-end lifecycle. So what we wanted to do is to combine those two, have documentation being generated almost out of tests. So some of the documentation will be like handwritten, some documentation will be referring to tests, and that was an idea of this project, and we ran it with a student from India, I believe, and but the project didn't succeed. So the project still up for grabs, and I can provide some mentorship. I cannot provide as much mentorship as I did for like CNCF mentorship, but I can definitely help with that. Yeah, and generally cleaning up and like the very first problem we hit with E2E underscore node test that you cannot have tests in subfolders because of some like importing problem. So like figuring out this importing problem is a very first task for this. And once you figure out this one, we can start creating like and splitting tests into subfolders, making sure that they well structured, maybe have some README around them, and then maybe as a next step to fully accomplish this project is generating some documentation out of the tests. That makes sense?
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, I would like to take a look at this. I can like follow up on Slack with you.
Yeah, and just a incentive if you're interested to take it. I don't think we have many examples in CNCF of documentation generated out of tests or any source of testable documentation. So that maybe is the first, and it can make a good KubeCon talk or maybe maintainer summit talk. So yeah, it's just yet another incentive for this project.
Yeah, I can assign it to myself.
Sure, awesome.
Thanks.
Okay, with that, let's look at test grid really quickly. Yeah, I glanced over before the meeting, so it doesn't look too bad. Yeah, flaky, same failures. Yeah, same Fedora. I think. Yeah, we already have issues for this, so it's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but at least we're tracking this. Yeah, and nothing particularly new in cryo. I'm going very quickly. If you want to stop me, please do. But I glanced over all of them, and it's all known failures. So yeah, CPU manager again. Okay, I think with that we done with test portion of it. Peter, I saw you signed up for bug triage. If you want to take over, please do.
Yep, I can do that. Okay. Sharing screen. Pulling up tab. All right. It's triage time. I think a number of these are still left over from we.
And today
reset.
morning, more tests were marked as needs triage. I mean, not today morning, but like today morning, I moved them back into triage folder. So bot is fighting with us, and we need to keep up with
Yeah.
with the bot.
And we're gonna win. Okay. Event recurred QPS set to 0. The actual QPS is 5. This is probably a kubelet configuration serialization thing.
Yeah, I remember this was very confusing bug. I still don't. I mean, to be fair, I didn't look too close, but there is some combination of something can be set to 0 through environment through config file. Something can be 0 through arguments, and there is very bad different semantic depending on where you put it. So I think the key here is to understand like, and I was trying to get from PR author to explain that clearly, and I didn't get this explanation very well. So this seems to be a very simple thing. We just need to get to the bottom of like what behavior is today and what we want as a behavior, and then it will be easy PR.
Yeah, I think I would say it's likely that this PR is what we want. I think we do like I can see where your line of questioning is coming from to make sure that we would never want to set default QPS to 0 via CLI and have that actually mean 0. So yeah, I think
Yeah, I remember semantic differences. Like if you set it 0 in one place, it will be meaning one thing, and
right.
0 in other place, meaning some other thing.
I think it's config file versus CLI. Like config file, you can set it to nil, and that will make it default. But with the CLI, since it's you can't actually set it to nil. So the only options if it's unset, it ends up taking the actual value of 0, which does seem to be valid because it means there's no limit. Whereas the nil, when it's set to nil in the config file, it's set to the default. But this is really, I think this line is the thing that's lying, you know, because currently if it's set to 0 with the CLI flag, it is defaulting to unlimited because we can't tell the difference between actually set to 0 and set to nil in the CLI.
You want to take it and tell what
Yeah,
its behavior should be?
yeah, I will.
And I don't think anybody will ever need unlimited. I really hope that nobody sets it to unlimited.
I mean, if that's the case, then we should probably make probably the change would be in the config file, have unset like a nil be 5, similar to the CLI. So basically in all sort of like 0 cases, it sets to 5 instead of set to unlimited. So maybe we sort of think about that.
Yeah.
Um,
Because like
cool.
I can see how it may be critical or important for debugging something. You may want to override it for like in your dev environment, like in kind, so there is no throttling. But if you're talking about production, like omitting it shouldn't be safer than unlimited.
Right. Yeah, I guess, I mean, yeah, but if we can't, I mean, the kubelet can't know whether it's production or testing. So I'm not sure we can really make that distinction. If there does exist a use case, we'd want unlimited.
Yeah, but maybe explicitly set to 0 would be I don't know. Like, yeah, you're right.
But the problem
That's
is,
why I'm confused to a lot of I mean I don't really know how to approach it. Like we need to write it down,
yeah,
you know, the behavior.
yeah, it's mostly just tricky because the CLI has no way to differentiate between an unset value and a value set explicitly to 0. And that's basically what we're hitting. Whereas in the API, you can, because a nil is explicitly unset versus pointing to a 0 means it's explicitly set to 0. So it's just like a limitation in the CLI serialization. So yeah, I'll try to give this some thought and see if I can make a recommendation. I think likely we'll probably want this PR. I bet Bing has thought through it and is probably correct. But yeah, I'll follow up there and I'll tag you when I come up with something.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Okay. No config setup kernel tunables. Cool.
But to reproduce this one, we need this special machine, correct?
Yeah, I don't even know what OpenVZ is. Is that a different
Mhm.
kernel?
I don't know.
Cool. Oh, it's an isolated Oh, it's like running inside of a container, basically.
So you mean we can check it with kind type or?
Yeah, but especially like a pod that is also confined, like, you know, typically in a kind situation, you'd have that container be privileged because you kind of just want to treat it like a process on the host with all of the distribution capabilities of a container. In this case, this is actually like, it's a read-only proc because it's in a container, and that is confusing the kubelet.
Okay.
I
you can...
don't know if we want to support this, to be honest. Like, I don't know if, you know, a nested kubelet situation is really something that we want to care about. So I think it could be reasonable as a kube community to say, like, you actually can't do this. Because like the kubelet expects to have a certain amount of control over the host, including setting syscuttles, which is what we're failing to do here. And what they want to do is like optionally not set syscuttles.
But do you think that we could take this this issue and improve the container manager to do some extra checks in the beginning, and then even not be able to start if those are not there? Or...
Yeah, that's an option. Definitely would be, instead of like, it looks like here we're just always setting the syscuttles. I think something we could do is check the value of the syscuttle before attempting to set it. And then in the container, the outer container, what they could do is set the syscuttles for that process by whatever container manager is running this OpenVZ container, and then the kubelet wouldn't like attempt to, like, it would check, see the value is correct and move on. Definitely an option. My worry, like, that's fine for this bug. My worry in a general sense is that like this will open up a can of worms. Like the kubelet expects to have a lot of control over the host. You know, and I just don't know if we want to like commit to this use case as a community and open up the can of worms that is like the, you know, kubelet having fewer permissions than we really expect it to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Can you propose to add a kubelet flag, so we default to what we like, and maybe they can set their own?
Well, Paco already basically did that
Okay.
with this PR, and it closed. I think it just languished. Yeah. So my general problem is there's no one who is a maintainer of the kubelet that cares about this case, and so like it's not a priority for us. While like maybe technically interesting, I also don't really see a use case for production. Like, I guess you could have a nested node inside of a container, and that, like, you know, is a theoretically interesting, but like, it doesn't, I mean, it may be for testing use cases, but even in a testing use case situation, you could set it to privileged and just give it access to a read-write proc. That would be fine. So it seems like they want it for production for some like secure, like, you know, maybe a node that has a bunch of containers that are running Kubernetes inside of the container. But I just worry that we're like, it's not enough of a priority for us. I mean, as is clearly evidenced by the fact that we let this sort of like, you know, Paco opened it, we just sort of didn't touch it, you know. Like a little bit of reviews here and there, and then it just sort of languished and fell apart and disappeared, you know. So if we want to allow this case, that's fine. I think that should just be an active decision and something that then people who are maintaining the kubelet know that this is something that we should, like, you know, accept PRs for. If this is not a priority for us, I don't think that we should like pretend like it is and allow it. and then let like someone open a PR for nothing.
Yeah, I hear you. Makes sense.
And we also wouldn't have many tests to ensure we didn't break it in future. And
Exactly.
I don't really want to introduce those tests because we don't want to support this scenario.
And we personally, you and I don't think anyone on this call really cares about this case. So it would need a champion who is willing to commit to like driving it in a medium long-term sense. And I don't necessarily think that I know of anyone who wants to commit to that.
Can we say that this is not a bug, but it's a feature? Or
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we can suggest they go through KEP route and then the wider community can decide.
I could either set this to kind feature, or I could close it. Those are the two things that I'm sort of trying to decide between right now. What do people think?
I would say instead of us taking this decision, we can let the wider community decide. But that's just me.
yeah, I mean,
Like you can close this issue.
Yeah,
You
we can
can
close
close
this.
this issue and then direct. Then if they want to pursue this, they can take the CAPE route and not the, because it requires wider scrutiny, in my view. For the reasons that you just mentioned. Yeah.
Correct. Anyhow, they will have to close this. So.
Yeah.
All right. Doing it. Dev termination log must have no exec, so unprivileged user cannot exec from it. Yeah, that makes sense. But how? Okay, so we write the termination log. What happens when who can exec it? I wonder, like, how easy is it to access this termination log? That is orthogonal. Okay, so it seems like there's a couple of different things that people are talking about on this one. The no exec piece, that's one thing. The conversation seems to have divulged to ephemeral storage quotas and like the location that we're writing the termination log not being charged against the container. Yeah, this is exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, I am not convinced that this is a problem. Like, yeah, a container is an executable. Like, we're executing arbitrary binaries pulled from the internet, you know. Any container that has any access to the host that would be dangerous has gone through scrutiny of pod security admission and other API gates. Any container that doesn't is being trusted just as much as the container image itself. I don't actually know what the risk is for this dev termination log file specifically.
Where does this log file get written? Like as a user, where
I'm not sure where it gets written on the host. I would guess in the pods. Well, I'm not sure, actually. I would have immediately guessed in the pods volumes. Like, I imagine it is being treated like an ephemeral storage volume, or an empty dir volume by the kubelet, but I actually have no idea.
Yeah, I think perhaps we should keep it. I mean, it seems to be.
it's an interesting scenario. I don't know if it's valid or not, but
Yeah, it is.
I do think it's, yeah, I mean, and I'm happy to keep the bug itself open, but I do agree with this Angus person that, like, the risk here is not actually that the file it has doesn't have no exec. Like, we don't care about, in this case, whether the file is executable. The problem is it's able to grow arbitrarily large, and we're potentially not charging that against the POS ephemeral storage. So, like, we could DOS a node, or, like, you know, trigger garbage collection and, like, fill up the disk, and the qubit might, like, get confused or mess something up. But the no exec piece, that's not, I think, relevant here.
But so do you recommend to retitle it, this issue, or
Sorry, what do you say?
do you think we should rename the issue?
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that.
you know what would be good use case for AI here? We just discuss this and then something writes it based on our discussion, and then we just approve it and comment.
I think it's kind of fun writing the description, like, you know, like a creative writing prompt.
True. I agree.
Well, actually, before I retitle this,
Didn't there was another bug, right, for the scenario that you're talking about, this one? I remember this
potentially.
Dave termination log filling up the disk space. Somewhere there was a bug like that.
Yeah, there was a bug
Let me
with
Google
not
for it.
removing termination log after container restart. So Like if you have like a lot of restarts, and you can fill up the disk with termination logs. And it's not the space, it's I think this what is it called? Handles. So just the fact that there are too
Yeah.
many.
Yeah, so this bug already exists, already being talked about. I think we should close this one.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice issue number. Okay. Moving on. Mm. Mm. Group root.
Right. You can
Top
give it to
level.
me,
Yeah.
and yeah, I can. I don't know if
Oh,
someone not working with that. I can take a look.
Oh, I'm spelling wrong. I'm on the right track, right?
Yeah.
That's it?
No. So you have a C. If you remove the C, you are in the
Ah,
correct.
yes.
So it is.
Oh, and then there's an S. Right. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will take a look on it. Thanks.
We do have a case in cryo where we handle this sort of more explicitly. If you dig into this problem and it does look like a bug in Containerd, I could potentially help you. But like there's actually quite a bit of code that we've had to do to make CPU manager work better with CPU sets set throughout the C group hierarchy, just as a warning.
Okay. Super. Sounds good. I will have in mind.
And I'll triage this also. Oh, actually, do you want to triage it in case it's not actually an issue?
No. You can triage it because I see already they have done how to duplicate. Yeah, it's fine.
Backlog item?
I think it's important long term, but we can put it backlog. But as you wish. Yeah.
No, I'll do that.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how we'll keep a state between restarts.
We'd have to make a state file.
If this is a,
Database.
yeah, if this is a valid case.
Yeah, I mean, Hewlett restarts, I feel like, live in this liminal space of support where like sometimes things work and sometimes things don't, and we don't really have clearly stated support clauses for it.
And potentially we can see that pod is running, and then accepted, like admitted based on the fact it's running and ignores this thing. But like, how would we, like, just from code perspective, it would be really hard to get the state of running first and then admit it, like react, like, and then influence admission based on this fact. I
Yeah,
think
because you'd have to correlate the like API source to the running pod outside of, you know, the.
So admission hook, admission cycle, admission loop happens very early in a start process, and by the time we don't have all the pods running in a cache, right? I mean, when I
For
mean,
the
just
restart, there will be already running, right? So it would know that it's running.
yeah, that
So
basically the ask here. So if you're talking about reboot of a node, then I can even justify that we shouldn't admit it because it was terminated, so it's not running any longer, and it's not
Yep.
like ignored during execution. But in case of kubelet restart, so the only case we want probably to support is when pod is still running and we can confirm that it's running and then admit based on this fact and ignore this affinity thing.
Yep. Like for upgrade, for example.
Or like kubelet just refresh certificates, something like that.
Yeah.
But code-wise, it will be really hard to implement. I mean, I think it will be really hard.
Yeah, but could they use static pods instead? Or
Well, that kind of defeats the purpose because they want to go through scheduling for the affinity part. So it's already too late. Like if this pod is running as a pod that was scheduled, then it's already not been created as a static pod.
We do have to depend on in other aspects where, like for example, device plugin needs to maintain the device health to healthy before the pod gets admitted when you restart the kubelet. So there are cases where we need to take care of things. So maybe one more.
Yeah, but I think I don't know how valuable or how semantically correct would it be that if node restarted and theoretically we like killed all the pods, then we need to ignore during execution. Like it's not executing any longer.
Yeah,
I
true,
don't
but
know if
you
this
just
case is reboot. Like I think the problem here is specifically if there's a running pod, like the case that you were talking about. If there's an already running pod, the kubelet restarts, it is apparently evicting that pod because the node affinity isn't set correct. Like, it doesn't match node affinity. And the expectation, it seems, is if the ignored during execution piece is done, then the pod is allowed to continue to run after the kubelet restarts. So this isn't a reboot case. I think in the reboot case, if the node affinity wasn't aligned, then the kubelet would deny it admission and it would be fine. But specifically when the pod is already running.
Yeah, I'm reacting to the fact that if you follow device manager and put a state file, this state file may survive reboot. And I don't think it will be desirable to have state files that survives reboot.
But what about restart?
Yes,
Of the kubelet?
Yes, there is a small but lively crowd of users on bare metal, which from time to time they restart the kubelet without restarting the node. And we had examples in the past. I'm not completely sure why the state file should not survive the reboot, but we can totally talk offline about it. I'm literally mean I'm not getting it. I'm not saying could be right and not getting it. I'm not sure I get why.
But I'm not sure. We keep mentioning reboot. That seems like a separate case in this. Do we agree on that?
Yes. I think it's about kubelet restart without node reboot, but I need to review the case again.
And that is the only case that we're currently documenting the kubelet misbehaving.
I think so.
Only when the kubelet is restarted.
I think so.
So I totally agree. Let's think about reboot in a general sense and try to figure out what the state file is up to. That's fine. Thinking about this issue specifically, reboot isn't in the picture. The pod is running, the kubelet restarts.
Yeah,
Kubelet notices the pod continues to run despite it not
Yeah.
matching node affinity and then terminates it.
that's my recollection, yes. Because up until very recently, kubelet restart and node reboot were assumed. You cannot have one just kubelet restart. Recently, it surfaced like a use case. So yes, I agree. It seems related to kubelet restart.
Yeah, my only reaction is if we will fix restart case by introducing a state file, then we may unexpectedly change the behavior of reboot, and we may not
I see
want.
what you're talking about. We could put the state file in temp and a temp fs, and that would sort of solve all of our
Yes,
problems.
in run, yes.
That may
So
solve.
I'm not like, yes, great point, and also that's a fairly easy thing to work through as long as we're diligent about doing that.
Actually, there is a bunch of socket which should be moved in run. We had conversation in the past, but I agree.
Well, and the thing is, we say here may or may not. Like we say it could happen.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to comment saying like theoretically we could detect the running state of the pod, or we could keep a state file in tempfs. But ultimately, like the kubelet, like there's a certain amount of undefined behavior that's implied by the documentation that maybe we should be a little bit more explicit about. But I think that this case could also just be worked around with documentation.
Yeah, exactly, because it's also which feature gates are enabled and a lot of other things, correct? So
Yeah, totally. And it's not even clear if the kubelet has like aligned feature gates with the API server, or I guess in this case, the scheduler.
Peter, don't we already maintain a list of containers in var or in run somewhere, kubelet, right? So do we need to have a
Cryo
separate?
does, and
oh.
there are, there might be some things in that the kubelet keeps. I know container runtimes do.
I think
I
kubelet.
was just thinking, can we reconstruct that? No, instead of having any separate state file, just
We do that. We reconcile what we learn from the runtime versus what we get from state file and API server. We do that in the device manager flow.
yeah, but Francesco, I think it is a lot of possibilities depending on the feature gates that are enabled, correct?
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
in
specifically,
general.
this is around this specific. I'm not sure what this node. Okay, so this pod. Okay, but this is part of the pod spec. I don't know what the kubelet gets with this, but like if the kubelet actually gets this affinity field, probably, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we cannot have one solution fits all because we need to be specific. I think.
Not complete. I see. There is. I agree. There is a not obviously, but I tend to believe that in the restart case, it could be possible. And in this specific case, in general, it should be possible.
I really like today's meeting. It's so insightful. Like, so many good discussions.
Yeah. Oh gosh, and we're already at time. Yeah, we've had a good, productive. Okay, so I am going to write a little blurb saying I think that this is probably best done as a documentation update because the actual fix in the kubelet will be tricky. We could even just change this field to say pod may continue to run. but may not. So
Just
the actual fix would
just a quick word of warning. I personally stumbled in a couple issues on which the behavior was interpreted in such a way that people depended on it. So
sure.
yeah, I agree about the general direction, but could be not the end of the story. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It is possible that this very bug is because a customer was, or sorry, a user was depending on that, and then things changed and they want their behavior back. So it could be, there could be a follow-up, just word of warning. But yeah, I agree about what we agreed so far.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everyone. Productive meeting. And yeah, have a good week. See you next week.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, folks.